Have you ever been asked how you're feeling and you honestly don't know? I recently experienced this exact scenario. Not because I'm not feeling anything, I can sense there's weather happening inside me. But because for most of my life, the question wasn't, how do you feel? It was, how is she feeling? How do I adjust accordingly? I'm Judi Bommarito, and this is healing card number 17, emotional awareness. But before we talk about becoming aware of your emotions, we need to talk about how you learn to become unaware of them. When you grow up with an emotionally unavailable parent, you don't just miss out on having your emotions witnessed and validated. You miss out on learning what emotions are for. You learn that emotions are problems to be managed rather than information to be trusted. You become fluent in reading the emotional weather of others while becoming illiterate in your own. You can sense when someone's mood is shifting, when they're about to shut down, when they need space or attention. But ask you what you need, what you're feeling, what your emotions are trying to tell you, you might as well be speaking a foreign language. I learned early that my emotional job was translation and adaptation. When my mother was present, I translated her moods into actions. Is today a day I can be excited about something, or should I contain my energy? Is this a moment when my sadness would be welcomed, or would it be one more thing for her to handle? I became so skilled at this emotional monitoring that I forgot I had an inner world worth monitoring. My emotions became background noise to the more important work of reading everyone else's emotional needs and adjusting myself accordingly. This creates a particular kind of emotional dysfunction. You're hyper aware of everyone else's feelings while being completely disconnected from your own. You can manage other people's emotional storms while having no idea that your own heart is breaking. And then you wonder why you felt so lost, so reactive, so like you're living someone else's life. Because in a way, you are. You've been living according to everyone else's emotional reality while ignoring your own. Learning emotional awareness as an adult requires archaeology. You have to dig through decades of learned emotional suppression to find what's actually yours. I realized I had emotions I'd never let myself fully feel. Not just the big ones, grief, rage, despair, but the quieter ones too. Contentment, genuine excitement, the kind of peaceful sadness that comes with acceptance rather than the desperate sadness that comes with fighting reality. I'd been living on an emotional diet of what was acceptable, convenient, and didn't require too much from others. I was emotionally malnourished, surviving on scraps of feeling while convinced that a full emotional life was somehow selfish or dangerous. This full moon energy demands you face what you've been avoiding. For me, that was the terrifying possibility that my emotions might actually be trustworthy, that the feelings I'd been dismissing or managing might actually be my wisest guidance system. But to trust your emotions, you first have to be able to feel them. And to feel them, you have to believe they're worth feeling. I want to share with you something simple that changed everything for me. I call it the emotional check-in, and it's embarrassingly basic, which is exactly why it works. 3 times a day, morning, afternoon, evening, I ask myself 4 questions. 1, what am I feeling right now? Not what I think I should be feeling, but what's actually happening in my body and heart. 2, where do I feel it? Is it in my chest, my stomach, my shoulders? Emotions live in the body, and learning to locate them helps you trust they're real. 3, what might this feeling be telling me? Not what should I do about it, but what information it might contain about my needs, my boundaries, my truth. 4, what does this feeling need from me right now? Sometimes it's action, sometimes it's just acknowledgement, sometimes it's space to exist without being fixed. That's it. No analysis, no solving, no making it smaller or more convenient, just noticing, locating, listening, and responding to your own emotional reality with the same care you'd give a good friend. The most shocking thing I discovered was that my emotions were trying to help me, not hurt me. The anxiety wasn't just random suffering, it was information about situations genuinely that were not safe. The anger wasn't evidence that I was a bad person. It was my system's way of telling me that my boundaries were being violated. The sadness wasn't weakness. It was my heart's way of processing loss and change. The excitement wasn't too much. It was my soul's way of pointing toward what brought me alive. I'd spent decades managing and minimizing these feelings when I should have been learning their language. They weren't problems to be solved. They were guidance to be trusted. But here's what nobody tells you about developing emotional awareness. It's not just about feeling your feelings. It's about learning to distinguish between your emotions and everyone else's. When you've spent your whole life absorbing other people's emotional states, you have to learn where you end and they begin. That frustration you're feeling, is it yours? Or did you pick it up from your partner? That anxiety that seems to come from nowhere, is it your intuition about something? Or are you absorbing someone else's stress? Learning emotional awareness means learning emotional boundaries. Every time you trust your emotional guidance, every time you honor what you're feeling instead of dismissing it, you're not just healing yourself. You're healing the family pattern that taught you emotions were inconvenient, dangerous, or too much. You're proving that it's safe to feel, safe to trust your inner wisdom, safe to use your emotions as the guidance system they were always meant to be. I think about the child who learned to walk lightly, who folded her emotions into something small and manageable. She needed to know that someday she could unfold them, trust them, let them take up space they were always meant to occupy. Your emotions aren't problems to be solved. They're not evidence that you are too much, too sensitive, to anything. They're your internal compass, your early warning system, your connection to what's true and alive in you. Next week, we're exploring setting intentions, because once you can feel what you're feeling and trust what those feelings are telling you, you can set intentions that actually align with your authentic self rather than who you think you should be. What's one emotion you've been dismissing that might actually be trying to guide you? Share it below if it feels safe. Your courage to feel gives others permission to trust their own emotional wisdom. The feelings you learn to hide are the ones that will lead you home to yourself. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Take good care.